In 1955, Ford had a good idea, a very good idea, which was to install the lifeguard system as an option in the new Ford Crown Victoria. See, it was clearly illustrated with kids in the front seat. A couple years later, Saab and then Volvo made seatbelts standard. Now we can't imagine driving without them. 10 years ago, I started a company with a very simple idea, which was to try to take information that we use every day or that we care about every day and move it off the screen into an everyday object that you could sort of pay attention to without any cognitive load. Just out of the corner of your eye, you could see information. We thought people would be interested in tracking the stock market, and they were, and they became obsessed with tracking the stock market. We thought people would care about weather, especially here in the Midwest where I come from. People care a lot about weather. People care about pollen if they're asthmatic. People care about sailing. People care about the first derivative of barometric pressure, whether the fish are biting or not. And what was really interesting about this was we thought we were just making a nice, polite, cute, little internet-connected thing that people would enjoy, but instead it made them obsessed. They were calling their broker. They were doing things that they otherwise wouldn't do, and we thought there's a germ of a behavioral change mechanism here that's much more powerful than going to a website, pulling up an app on your smartphone. And we found that data made people trade more often, spend less time stuck in traffic jams, walk 2 times more if they had a Bluetooth pedometer connected to an ambient type display, make people conserve energy, take the bus more often because they could trust the bus if the data was available, and also take better care of their diabetes. For the last 10 years, I've been thinking about and designing interfaces that take data and move it from the wrong place to the right place. And usually the right place, the decisional moment, is not the web, and it's not a smartphone app, but it's a dedicated device. I like to call them enchanted objects. It's interesting that if you look at the design of an airplane, there's not an app for that. There's not just one small screen and a little gestural interface and you can swipe 3 times and see what the altitude is. For these sort of environments where you have to make decisions, you just prefer to have the information spread thinly around you, waiting for you to pay attention to it. So other examples of enchanted objects, urban furniture. There's a group called Nextbus that's putting GPS pucks on buses in San Francisco and other cities and displaying that as a fill bar that you can see from a block away. Do you need to run for the bus or not, or can you do some shopping, is another example. Another example was inspired by Frodo, who had a sword that knew when orcs were nearby. Why not put the weather data in the device that you use when you know it's going to be raining? We made little Post-it notes that sold very well at Brookstone and Best Buy and other stores, and the technology was licensed by LG. People touch their fridges 69 times a day. It's a good place for information. Mirrors are another thing that people stand in front of and should be a good place for information. So let's go back to packaging. Procter & Gamble has, I think, taught all of us that a little bit of intelligence, it's not wireless intelligence, but something that shows the use of a device can accelerate purchase behavior. I think there's something to learn there about behavioral health. The way that you pay for smart packaging is to make it like seatbelts, ubiquitous, free, just a part of the environment. That's the best way to change. For a diabetic that's taking their medication regularly, they cost about $4,000 less per year in care costs. So there's plenty of money to design an intervention that can change people's behavior. This one costs about $10 a month. I think the technology that's interesting, and I'll show you how it works, but the technology that's interesting is not cellular or cheap wireless. The technology that's interesting is behavioral economics and nudges that we can use as feedback loops to get people to change behavior. Our data shows that old pill caps in a clinically controlled trial for a hypertension audience, people take their meds about 70% of the time. With glow caps and all the things that they do, they take it over 98% of the time, which is sort of crazy good, but let me explain why I think that's the case. Each column is a day, each row is a person. This is what happens when you just give glow caps to people and just collect data, and they don't do anything except for collect data. You can see some people are doing quite well, thank you very much, and other people are quite challenged. And this is what happens when you turn on the services. Those little dots are when a call or SMS was made because somebody didn't open the cap. So a 27% delta between the control group and intervention group is pretty astounding, and we're pretty excited about that data. So just as a stunt, we gave a glow cap to 20-something people that were speakers here at this conference, and looked at the data over the last 5 days. Inside were M&Ms, so there was another incentive to take your medication. And the caps actually only prompted people in the morning to take their medication, but they were told to do it 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 8 p.m. So you can see I've sort of anonymized the data, but I'm proud to announce that that the 100% at the top, 100% adherence was Mrs. Q. So congratulations, Mrs. Q. But the other interesting pattern was the difference between the morning percent, 80% adherence, and the afternoon of 56%, and the evening of 41%. You can see again missed, taken versus missed dose times. And there was a lot of double dosing behavior. A lot of late night double dosing behavior for all the speakers too. So the version of the product that the speakers got, you had to plug it into an Ethernet connection in the home. I just want to show you the new version of the product, which we're manufacturing now, which we did a deal with AT&T because we thought in order to make this like seatbelts, something that you could really give to anyone, it has to be really, really simple. So we avoided coupling the data, the glow cap to your smartphone or a Bluetooth interface with your computer or something else that would be complicated that would involve software or Wi-Fi. So instead, we designed this, which is a universal hub that talks to up to 10 caps or other home health devices in the home. And the installation instructions are this. Do you know how to use a nightlight? Just plug it in. You plug this in, it finds the nearest cell phone tower, it sets up a two-way connection, and it starts talking to caps every minute and uploading data and downloading new dose time information. So I think I think that the technology innovation here is just sheer simplicity. Our vision is that this becomes standard medication packaging, that when you go into the pharmacy, you're just given your med in a glow cap for free. I think it needs that sort of simple business model in order to scale. And there's plenty of money because the pharmaceutical companies are making more money, the pharmacies are getting more traffic, and the health insurers are reducing their care costs. So behind the counter, each cap has a barcode scan that's associated with the RX scan, and that data is uploaded. Then at home, you plug in the nightlight. It has this escalation scheme that's polite, because I think living with something every day, it has to have gone to finishing school. Otherwise, you're throwing it out the window. So this politely pulses with light for an hour, and then if you haven't opened it, it plays cute little arpeggios. I went to St. Olaf College and sang in the choir, so I used a, dun 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 as a reminder. And those arpeggios escalate in height every 5 minutes, so it gets a little bit more insistent. And then finally, your phone will ring, or a text message is sent out, whatever you like. If you look at the data, this is showing the percent of people that have taken the medication, and it's actually segmented by day of the week, because we were interested in day of the week versus weather versus gender versus all of the other ways you could slice the data. The control group is at the bottom, so after 2.5 hours, only 60% of the control group has taken the med, and over 90-something 5% of the intervention group. And you can see that weekends, people get up later. So then we send these nicely formatted emails, which importantly don't go to you, but they go to you and to a loved one you designate. So that sort of social dynamic is, I think, one of the things that makes the product useful, not just the reminders. Also, and this is probably very relevant for this audience, the thing that makes this I think most persuasive for certain people is the idea that their doctor also sees the information. We don't want to cause liability or new work for the doctor, so we only do this once a month. But for many people, for many personality types, if you say, your doctor will also see the data so that they can make sure and treat you better, that's hugely motivational. It also has a push to refill button. So on the bottom, if you're out of meds or have questions about your meds, if you push this button, your home phone rings, and we can transfer to a pharmacist. Many people have studied non-adherence, what the issues are. We've tried to look at all of that literature and to design services that attack each of these: forgetfulness, education, social support, accountability to a doctor, refill coordination, and cost. Actually, we're working with Dan Ariely, who wrote Predictably Irrational, which is a wonderful book, where we're giving financial incentives to certain people where they get a health account, just sort of like your gym membership here at Mayo. If your adherence exceeds a threshold, we don't take money out of your account, which is more motivational than giving you money. And some of the most recent work with the company is to try to make a motivational map, which is almost like a personality test, where we ask people questions through multiple modalities, through the phone, through email, through a web survey, just a couple of questions at a time, and build up whether you're more susceptible to different persuasion techniques. You may be cost sensitive. Somebody else may be loosely organized and need more reminders. Somebody else may have close familial ties that we can leverage. So the system learns more about you and picks those interventions that are most persuasive. So we think of this, Tom talked about yesterday, about feedback loops. This is new feedback loops for yourself, for family members, for doctors, and to the pharmacy. And we get all kinds of really interesting granular data out of it. So just to conclude, I think this work in ambient devices and this thinking about behavior change, we've tried to think about more everyday objects that could be imbued with internet connectivity and information display that could try to persuade people in ways that are polite, something you'd want to have around you, and I have some sketches of examples of that. One is, I have a Y things scale that tweets. It's a Wi-Fi scale that tweets, but I don't know, my bathroom, I always have to like lean down and scooch the scale out. Shouldn't scales be soft and show trends as soft mats? This is a salt shaker, which many people have on their table, but it's not designed to only dispense salt, but it has a 360-degree camera, it looks at your food, and it uses rare low-cost projectors to project information about your food after it's been analyzed by a nutritionalist somewhere else. It seems like good in-context information. This is a peak flow meter, a spirometer, that's not medicalized, that's fun, that makes spirograph patterns on your wall. So it encourages its use every day and shows you the history of use. So this is an idea of leveraging the fact that we take much better care of our pets than we do ourselves. So why not give somebody something that's really cute that they carry around and that they love, and sort of a Webkin-like thing. It exaggerates the effect of walking or not walking as something that's shared on Facebook. So this pet dies after 4 days if you don't walk. I go to a lot of these health conferences, and I see a lot of people that are talking about web-based products, PHRs, self-reporting interfaces on Google Health or Microsoft Health Vault or kiosks or other things. So, and those are getting better and better designed, but they still rely on self-report. I believe there are very few cases where self-report works, or where annoying, dumb texting apps that just will text you to take your medication and doesn't know whether you already have taken your medication. I don't think those will be tolerated. We need to invest in enchanted objects like the ones I presented that are like seatbelts or guardrails. Please help me figure out how to make smart packaging a standard and free for any chronic disease medication. Thanks very much.